All right, guys, welcome. Friday, April 4th, 2025. We have a great guest today. I know you're used to seeing Coach Schumann. He should be in a couple minutes. He'll be on. We're handling some logistical things that we got to take care of. But he'll be on. Like I said, we have a great guest today, George Adams. I'm going to let him kind of intro himself because it is just an awesome title, I think, that he has and kind of what he does, where he's from, all that good stuff. Coach, really appreciate you taking the time, man. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Looking forward to it. And, been a topic of conversation in the household this week, so
I love it. I love it. I love it. You got to bring those ones in, right? Happy wife, happy life, dude. I don't care what anybody says, Absolutely. So, Coach, give us a little bit of your background. First off, tell us, kind of your current title and what you're doing, and then go into your background a little bit of why you are where you're at now.
Sweet. Yeah. Name's George Adams. I'm the head athletic performance coach at Madison Ridgeland Academy. We're in Madison, Mississippi, just north of Jackson. So we're in a really cool area. Before this, I did my GA at the University of Georgia with Olympic sports. Kind of fell into the MRA job through social media. Somebody reached out and they were like, hey, there's a school in Jackson, Mississippi that's looking for a full-time strength conditioning coach and finishing up a GA. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Let's roll. So kind of went through that process, but I'm from Lovejoy, Georgia, just south of Atlanta. And so I played football down there, went and played some D3 football up in North Carolina at Methodist. Then I started bouncing around, thought I wanted to be a PT going into school. Realized I didn't through a PT myself. Then I started bouncing around, playing the strength coach game. Thought I'd coach football, didn't really stick for a multitude of reasons. And so I moved to Southern Miss, then I went back to Methodist, then I went to Marshall, then I went down to Georgia, then I went to Minnesota, then I went to Florida, then I came back to Georgia, and now I'm here. So I got a 2006 Ford Ranger that's got 194,000 miles on it. It's been all over the country with me. So,
yeah, right, Coach. That's a lot. Listen, I think, and we've had a lot of these guys like yourself that have been on the show. And I think what a lot of viewers don't understand that that world requires that to not only move up, but also to gain more knowledge. So on one hand, when someone says, oh, well, he bounces around a lot or whatever, I totally could test that and say, look, he's being a sponge right now, right? He is literally taking jobs to get his fit, to get to learn, to understand certain things and to just gain more knowledge. And then ultimately, when you land in a spot like where you're at now, you can take all those things and all those experiences, and you have that vast, resume built with all of those things, that are into it. And I just think guys that, look, there's one thing about stability and all those other kind of things, but I think when you're young and you can, right? You have the ability to do those things, right? A coach told me when I first got into coaching, he said, look, stay broke as long as you can.
Absolutely.
Right?
I heard
because
the same
once
advice.
you start gaining, right? Yeah. Once you start getting those paychecks, it kind of handcuffs you. And now you have to stay in that area because now you're making decisions based off knowing that income is coming.
Yeah.
So kudos to you, Coach. You got a lot of experience, a lot of those places right now. So talk a little bit about what you're doing, and kind of who you work with in terms of, student athletes and whatnot. So go into that a little bit, kind of what you're doing currently.
Yeah, so we kind of divide our program up into two different ones. Our junior high program, our long-term athletic development program, that's 7 to 9. And then our varsity athletics is 10 to 12. And so our long-term plan, I don't really care what sports you play. I don't really care what you got going on the weekends, because we're trying to build a huge, robust foundation. That's my big goal. Is I tell people all the time, I'm trying to build the most robust athlete I can in those grades. When we get to the varsity athletes, it's a little bit different because now it's all about sports performance, how good we can be on the field, how we can go perform. Like we were talking about, I'll get fired up. Somebody squats 800 pounds, sick, let's roll. I'm fired up. But that's not the end goal for everything that we do. It's all about how we can perform better on the field of play. And so that's kind of how we separate the two programs. And then inside the varsity, now it's team specific, football, baseball, basketball, volleyball. soccer, they're all those sports now. We started diving in a little bit, it's not crazy like the sport specific term, right? It's not that, like, we still train, everybody does very similar things, but taking care of them a little bit, and making sure they know, like, hey, I'm looking out for you. I'm not just posting up the baseball lift for our girls volleyball team to go do. I'm actually taking time and making sure they're getting what they need based on who they are as a team.
Got it. George, this is Damon. Coach is joining us. So, Coach, we're just going into kind of a little bit of like how his program and how he runs things at where he's at now. And if that's male, so Coach, you work with obviously male and female athletes, right?
Yes, sir.
So that's awesome. So, and it's like you said, you divide it up 7 through 9, 10 through 12, right? And now talk a little bit about like schedule wise, how it works when you're in and out with like, your teams or whatnot. And do you have to teach as well?
Nah, so I'm super fortunate. I don't have to teach. I don't coach another sport. This is what I do. This is what I was hired to do. And so, providing value over year, I'm wrapping up my 6th year here now. So,
nice.
We're talking about the stability part, but, we got here, me and my wife, we had just got engaged before we moved here. We were here. We have a daughter now. She's 4. We have a son. He turns 3 in 2 weeks. We got a little girl, a little baby. She just turned 1. So, that stability part, I'm like, this is the time I need stability. When I was 22 to 25, I'm like, man, let's rip it. Let's go.
Right. You could go from North Carolina to Marshall to, to Minnesota to Florida. Like you could do that. Like now it's like, you got to kind of dial it in and be where your feet are. Right.
Yeah. It's super nice. And, I got great admin support. It's a great place. All of my admin are former coaches, which is super cool.
Huge.
Head football coach. He's kind of a slash role. He's the, dean of students. He's the assistant AD. But then we have our AD was a longtime basketball coach. Our high school principal was a longtime football coach. Our head of school was a head football coach and a head track coach. Our other dean of students, he was a football coach for a long time. And so, I'm in a place that values athletics, which is super nice. And so when they built this position, they were like, we just want him to solely focus on that. We don't want him teaching. We don't want him doing anything like that. So that makes my life easy. Now, the logistics of everything is a little bit different. So throughout the school day, periods 1 through 6, we get our junior high kids based on athletic periods. And so then that's also when they practice, though, too. And so we have to kind of work that, especially with basketball and how that works. And so sometimes it's difficult with our junior high kids. We just coach them when we can and when they're consistent. That's the big thing I ask from our coaches is like, it just has to be consistent. It can't be a babysitting thing where, basketball gets done and it's like, oh, well, now you can go to the weight room. I'm like, that's not necessarily how we need to work this. Our boys are super consistent. It's trying to get our girls programs on board with our junior high. Now with our varsity programs, what we do is before school, it's our largest out of season team. And so like right now it's football lifts before school. And then everybody else, we work on the back half, either 7th period, which is varsity athletics, or they go at some point in the afternoon. And so, we get the day rolling. Our first group's at 6:45. And then my last group typically is about 4:00. So we're ripping and running most of the time. But Friday's a low-key day. So, during the junior high periods, me and my assistant, he had a great idea when he came in. He was like, hey, because we used to take Wednesday as like a free day. He was like, why don't we just push everything Monday through Thursday, and then we can have a low-key day on Friday? And I was like, that's a great idea.
We did.
He has to coach football.
I do the same thing at our high school program because I still coach high school football. We're 4 days, Monday through Thursday. Friday's your makeup day if you're sick or you got something going on or whatever. And then we offer 2 time periods, right? We'll bring a group in at 5:30, which is mainly football guys, and we'll put them through a full-blown kind of workout. And then in the afternoon, we're fortunate we get out really early. Bell rings to end the day at 1:30. So they're done. And then you have it's a great weight room space. like it's actually, square footage wise and things like that. So you have the room to do things. But in the afternoon, it's a mix of, you got football guys in there, track guys are in there, regular ed students can come and use it as well, so it's more of just like kind of piecing together the puzzle in the afternoon. But it's still hyper, it's not just, hey, here's your workout, go do it, right? Like we're still there in it and kind of going with it and whatnot. So but that's awesome how you guys, now what's the relationship like now coach wise? Like you sit down with them, we're like, hey, this is what we want to do, how does that work?
We sit down and I do it, like I said, my male coaches are 100% on board across. And so that's super nice. And even my major sports, like girls basketball is highly involved. And so that's super cool. Like I have friends that they struggle with their major sports, getting them in and getting them consistent. I'm like, man, my major sports, I crush. Like my coaches are on board. They're consistent. Football, basketball, baseball, men, girls and boys basketball, super consistent. And so that part makes my life really easy because it just is what it is. Those major sports keep you employed. And so I got friends that they have all their minor sports involved, but they struggle getting their majors. I'm like, man, I'm super blessed to be able to have all of that, and my coach is on board, and they're essentially at this point, they're like, go get them ready, like go do what you got to do. They may ask questions and say like, hey, why do we do this? Why do we do this? And I welcome that because if I don't have an explanation for it,
absolutely
I'm doing it. So but yeah, I mean, me and my head football coach, we work super closely. Head baseball coach, we work super closely. I'm super close with our basketball coaches, keeping them informed. And so that's kind of how it works. And, we've gotten in a rhythm with our scheduling for the most part. And so everybody knows like, hey, we're out of season. This is when we're lifting. We're in season. This is when we're lifting. And so that helps a ton. Going back to just providing value. Once they see it, it's easy to get coaches on board. When they see those like little nagging injuries start to go away, or they see, kids starting to just look different, right? We're in high school. As soon as a 16-year-old boy touches a weight, they start getting little bumps on them because all that testosterone, right? They're like starting to flex up a little bit. And, that
little bit
that gets buy-in from the kids, gets buy-in from the coaches. And so, that's kind of how it works. So we just kind of sit down and I'm like, hey, this is what we're looking at. I keep them informed on when we're about to switch phases and kind of explain to them the basics of why we're switching and what we're going to. And
got it.
So it's just trying to educate them as much as possible and keep them in the loop and not just be like, no, this is my space. Because at the end of the day, it's their team. And I'm support staff. So.
Coach, what is it as far as like how you kind of distribute between like balance and strength and speed? How do you kind of structure a program from that standpoint? Is there like periodization you do with it? What do you do there?
Yeah. And you guys know like periodization at the high school level is super difficult.
Right. Absolutely.
And so the way I was actually talking with one of our students about it yesterday, he's a graduating senior, but he's always been really involved in like what we're doing.
He'll be your GA in a couple of years.
Gosh, that'd be nice. I would love to hire somebody that's been in our program and just comes back and is like, hey, yeah, let's roll. But I was talking to him about it, and with the traditional periodization like block, and you look in the textbook, right, and it's like hypertrophy first, and then strength, and then power. And I think when you program like that, you lose some of that characteristic. And so what we kind of look like is we'll have emphasis. Like we're coming out of a max strength emphasis with our football team right now, because if I'm not going to put a heavy bar on them or a heavy load on them, right, January to March, when am I going to do it? And so now we're trying to get ready for spring ball. I'm trying to make sure they're ready to go. So everything's starting to look a little bit different, and the guys are noticing it, and they're like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? And so we just try to waive it, I think, more than anything. I try to keep power, strength, and mass gain, hypertrophy, whatever you want to call it. I try to keep all of it somewhat involved at all times as much as we can. We are a school that we don't have a bunch of big kids running around. And so a few years ago, I kind of, when you're looking for an X factor for your team, because if you saw us get off the bus for football, you would not be like, oh, these guys can play. And so we kind of went down this speed, rabbit hole of like, okay, we got to figure out how to give an X factor to our kids. We're pretty athletic, but we're not very big. The type of offense we run, honestly, in all of our major sports, it's up tempo. It's fast. I'm like, okay, let's really dive down this train of how can we keep speed year round and how can we stay explosive year round. And so it's kind of dosing that strength stuff in, dosing that hypertrophy stuff in, but constantly having a power output or force output as our main goal.
It's a tough balancing act, between strength and speed. As far as like like where you have different groups, how do you group your guys? So you probably have guys that have been working out, even younger guys more than others. Do you group them differently or anything like that you do?
So our young ones, they actually do a pretty good job of just getting with people that are about as strong as them. They kind of naturally do it. Now, what we have to do with our young ones, right, is like, you'll get two of the kind of like alpha kids in the class, like the dogs in the class, and they'll get together, but then they get together and they start acting a fool. And I'm like, nope, like we got to move you. Like somebody's got to go. So we can get some work done. With our varsity sports, we just came out of a phase where everybody was doing the same thing. With football, for instance, it's just the one freshest on my mind is everybody's been doing the same thing because everybody needed to get stronger. Everybody needed to put a little bit of mass on. And so now we'll start switching that out a little bit and we'll start having our skills and bigs go together. We'll separate them and just have a little bit of modification between the two of them. This year we did something different. I'm not a big, assign a rack coach. I kind of let them do their thing. But with our team this year, we had to, logistically, just kids in the room is the biggest offseason we've had. And so, we've been operating with about 52, 53 kids every day. And so I had to be a little bit more organized with who's at what rack. And then what we tried to do is position the energy around the room a little differently because everybody, typically wants to be on the front side in our weight room. Like all of our contributors, our varsity starters, everybody wants to be on the front. I'm like, okay, but what we tend to do is have this energy lapse as we move back. And so what we tried to do this year is position them around the room differently to where there was always an energy group somewhere. And so that was a little bit different for them, but it's worked out. We've had a really good off season. Haven't had many down days. And so that's energy wise, we haven't had many down days. So that's been really good for us.
Cool. As far as from a recruiting standpoint and guys that are I don't know, that might miss for different things. How do you maneuver those guys? Guys that are going to camps or playing 7-on-7 and stuff like that. How do you work those guys in when they're kind of intermittent at times?
So in the summertime, because we're not a huge school, and so we have to work with some of those kids. If we came in and had this hard line of, if you're missed this many days, you can't be a part of our team. We would lose a lot of kids either due to baseball or due to, going to camps and everything like that. And so we work with those kids as long as they communicate. That's our big thing is we're trying to also get them ready for the real world. And so we're you have to communicate with us. You have to learn how to say hey, coach, I'm not going to be here. This is why. And you need to email us. You don't email us now we're going to have a conversation, but it's not a punishment of you weren't here. It's you didn't keep us in the loop and we were counting on you to be here and you weren't. And so, but we work with them, right now it's tough. And if I worried about everything everybody was doing outside of the weight room, we would never train. We would just do recovery and not do anything. And so we'd never get any change because, you guys see it, kids do so much stuff. And that's why I say periodization is tough at the high school level. It's we got kids, our starting quarterback, he's lifting with football in the morning. He's a pitcher for us. He's a contributing pitcher for us in baseball. He's one of the better golfers on the team. He plays 7-on-7 on the weekends. And I'm like, man, if I removed him from training, it was just hey, I need you to feel good at all times, we'd never get anything done. So it's give and take. Now we'll work with them if they come in and they're coach, the 7-on-7 thing. If one of our receivers, he comes in and he's coach, we played 6 games this weekend. And I'm like, okay, so your legs are smoked. Yeah, coach, legs are smoked. I'm like, all right, let's modify here. But on a whole scale, it's a lot more, hey, we got to go. We got work we got to get done. And then we'll work with individuals as they feel good, as they feel bad. We'll work with them a little bit based on what they're doing.
When you get to like playoffs and those kind of things, that part of the season, is there something that you do? Like, are you like a back off kind of guy? Like, you back off completely? Do you try to get a little bit of work in? What do you do when you get to that standpoint?
Hopefully by then we've done all the work we need to. And it's about, there's a lot more of that, like, hey, let's feel good. And so in the past, what we've done, football in season wise, Monday is a lift day for us. And people kind of look at me sideways when I say this. That's really our only true lift day. Wednesday we go out and it's a speed day for us. It's speed and plyos. And then Friday, if we're close to home, like in the metro area, or we're at home, we'll steal a lift on that day if we can. But that Friday is more like they've been sitting in a classroom for 8 hours. Like, I need to get y'all moving before we get out to pregame. And so adaptation wise, we're not getting a ton there probably. The thing that I really stick on once we get to playoffs is like, I got to keep that speed dosed in, and I got to have y'all's yardages right. We're fortunate we have Titan GPS, and they're awesome. Wow. They help us a ton. And so I'm able to look at that stuff and say, hey, this is the yardage I need you to hit. Like I said, me and my football coach, we work really well together. We're like on the same page with 90% of stuff we do, and probably more than that, 98% of stuff we do. And so, I'll be like, hey, this kid needs to back off. He's 400 yards over high speed data that he needs to be. We need to back him off today. Let's just let him do this period and this period. And then he walkthroughs everything else. And so it really does come down to, because your dudes got to be dudes when you get to playoffs, right? And so it's like, I need y'all to be able to go play. If a kid's like, man, my hamstring doesn't feel great today, I'm like, all right, let's not sprint. Like, go talk to our AT, go get some rehab done. Let's try to feel good as we get through going towards game day.
No, it makes a ton of sense.
And Dave, you could agree, right? Like, in season is always tough, right? And it's just, look, when do you lift them, right? Because typically up here we play Friday nights, right? So Saturday we bring them in bright and early, 7 a.m. Classic old school run lift film, right? And you kind of just get try and get something, right? You get a little bit of a lift, but guys are banged up. So are they really, can you really kind of crush them or do whatever, so that happens. It's more recovery type stuff. Monday, you bring them in, right? Usually that we play JV games on Monday here. So what happens is another bonus about being a school that gets out at 1:30, right? Like, that's awesome. So I literally get those guys to, hey, offensive game plan installed, defensive game plan installed, JV. Now, bam, you're out on the bus, go travel. You're going to play your game. Good. The guys that stay back, more of the varsity guys and a lot of the freshman team. If I don't take a couple of those guys with me on JV, they stay. They won't go to the install meeting. They'll go lift, right? And what's great about our team too is our freshman coach is our head indoor and outdoor track guy. And he's on board with, and he's like, another strength and conditioning coach within the program itself. So not by title, but by, knowledge base. And it's like, hey, dude, we're giving you. And so those older guys, that's really their day to get a good hard lift in on that Monday. Practice and break it up. But our freshman team, they lift 3 days a week. Like, full blown in there 3 days a week. They'll go as soon as school's out, they'll go hit their lift, then they'll put their pads on and go, because they usually play on Thursdays. So a little bit different kind of setup schedule wise. But look, even when Dave and I coach together at the high school level, it is hard to get those lifts in season, just because you have time restraints. Like, it's, they got to practice. They got to do that stuff. They got to watch film. They got to have some of those meetings. When do you lift them? When do you lift them? It's always been one of these conundrums of, when can you get the most out of them? All of those gains that they put in the off season in the summer. How many teams it's like, hey, we don't lift in the season. It's like, are you crazy? Like, you have to spend time somewhere, And I get it. Like, you know, it's hard if you're going to, all right, guys, you're coming in at 5:30 in the morning to get a lift, right? So where we're at a disadvantage up here too is during the school day, there's no block or period that is football here. That's not a thing, right? Like, so we have to find time to steal it. You know, some of the programs in schools up here have figured it out that, hey, let's try and get like the athletes, you know, have the option of weight room within their phys ed class. Like that can be an option where you get a coach in there. Now you have to have all your coaches on board, or your phys ed teachers need to be on board. Like, hey, these guys that are in class are athletes, doesn't matter what sport, but they're going to go to the weight room and get their workouts in.
Right.
That's probably the best way to get it done, but it's really difficult up here, man. In Jersey, we just don't have that, you know, and you see the programs that are more uber successful, they do that. And then those kids know, like, hey, I have fourth block phys ed, my workout, I'm going to get my workout in.
Right.
But then you also have to have, like, you know, kids that are like, hey, I'm going to go in there and work. Or that teacher needs to be like, hey, this is what's going on. Because I mean, you can speak to it. Not many schools, we were fortunate where we were to have a strength and conditioning coach. Not many high schools up here, let alone middle schools that are attached to it, have strength and conditioning coaches, right? Like, Dave, I can't think of more than maybe 10 that have them full time that only do that and don't teach.
Right.
Yeah. It's a huge difference when you can, you know, I tell people all the time, like, you can't do two things. So even if you're like coaching, if you're coaching football and you're doing strength stuff, like, they're pulling away from each other. And so, like, you can't be as good of a football coach. You can't be as good of a strength coach. And so if these schools, and you're starting to see a shift, I think, especially in the South, we're starting to see it, is you're starting to see these schools be like, wait, this needs to be a person, just like our head football coach coaches football. Like, he doesn't coach anything else. It's like, this person, if we want it to be as successful as it can be, we need to, like, put the emphasis on that. And we need to let that person do their job, not be like, oh, and you have to teach 4 periods a day, and you have to coach a sport, and you have, and like all the like slash duties, right? Other assigned duties. So
the stuff nobody really knows about, that when you apply for the job and they're like, oh, well, guess what? You also have to this, right? Like, and you're not just working with your athletes. Like, you're not only working with football guys, right? Because, you know, I've noticed that somewhere along the line, every coach thinks they're a strength and conditioning coach too. Like, right? Like, they just have their whatever, like, oh, well, we should do this, we should do that. Like, when you get a school that's rocking around one central vision for everything, then you're really kind of cooking with gas. And when you figure that out, like, that's huge. So you're definitely at an advantage when it comes to that stuff. It's really difficult to figure it all out, especially with the logistics. There's no spring football up here. Like, that's not a thing.
Oh, wow. I didn't know
that. So what we really do, and you know, especially, we've always encouraged multi-sport athletes, right?
Yeah, you have to.
You have to. Speak on that a little bit, Coach. What's your feeling on that, multi-sport guys?
We're kind of in the same position. Like, like I said, we're a small school, and so, like, we need our best athletes playing everything. Now, it just is what it is in the South. Like, you know, baseball players are like, nope, I gotta just play baseball, and then, you know, football is kind of the one that still floats, you know, but like kind of what you were saying, when you're operating under a central vision and everybody's on the same page, it doesn't matter if it's football, basketball, baseball. Well, we only have one kid in the school right now that is a varsity football player, and he's a stud wide receiver for us. Basketball, he plays basketball. He's the starting 2, and he's a stud. And then in baseball, he's a stud. And so, you know, we have to work with him a little bit differently, just because otherwise he would never have an off season. You know, his only off season would be in the summertime with football for 7 weeks, but then he's on these travel teams for baseball. And so he leaves us on Wednesday. We don't see him again until the following Monday. And so we just have to, like, handle him a little bit differently. But multi-sport kids, I think, as long as everybody is operating on the same page, if the sport coaches are talking to each other and communicating, I think it's great. I think when sport coaches try to silo themselves and be like, no, this is my kid, I think that's really dangerous language. When you're like, my kid, my team, like, everybody should be operating under the vision of the program. And so, like, it doesn't matter. Like, football is not the most important thing. Baseball is not the most important thing. Like, MRA athletics for us is the most important thing. And how can we be the most successful athletic program? And I think the only way you can do that is not by siloing yourself and being like hoarding your kids. I think it's easy for coaches to do because every coach wants to be successful in their sport. But if we can communicate across the range of coaches, then we can actually probably have better buy-in from our kids because now they're not hearing different messages.
Right.
I think multi-sport kids are great if everybody's on the same page. If you have one coach saying, no, you don't need to be lifting weights in the off season, you need to be getting ready for this. It's like, well, that's going to hurt, And so that's kind of where we are with our male staff, our boys staff right now is everybody's on the same page. Everybody needs to be in here at least twice a week. Twice a week we get them in season. We try to steal a third day if we can here and there. But everybody's on the same page of like, we got to have our kids ready to go at all times.
Right. Does that come from the AD, the communication on that? Like, is that, and then you're kind of echoing it? How do you get that to work together? Because no doubt football and basketball always want their guys, and a lot of times baseball too, right? Their guys doing the things that they need them to do. How do you do that?
I think it comes from us just working really well as a staff. And by no means is it perfect at all times. We got spring football coming up. We have camp season for basketball coming up. We have baseball season going on right now. And so like, it's not always like unicorns and rainbows and everybody's happy, but it's like where the priority is and what we need to get ready for at that time. So we kind of put a really hard emphasis on primary sports. Our AD is really good at his job. And so he's like, hey, coaches, y'all, yeah, for sure. He's like, coaches, y'all need to figure this out. Like, y'all are adults. Y'all need to figure this out and learn how we can do this effectively before he steps in and does something. And so, he will come in and be like, no, this is what we're doing. But a lot of times he's like, y'all are adults. Like, go work it out and go figure out what the best thing for our kids are. And so where we're at right now with me is the other sport coaches look at me as like a assistant to all of their staffs. So what's cool about being a performance coach and not having to be involved in a sport specifically is like, my goal is like, how can we have the best athletic department? Like, how can we have the most success across the board? And so I think it's kind of a cool scope to look from, right? Because I want our football team to win a state championship, and because I have some skin in the game. I want our basketball teams to win because I have some skin in the game. Same thing with baseball, right? I want them to all be successful. It's not just like a basketball coach being like, oh yeah, like it'd be cool if baseball won a state championship. Like, that'd be nice. It like truly like rooting for everybody and keeping everybody on the same page. I think that helps a lot. And then just communicating, showing the coaches too that I'm talking to our basketball coach and being like, okay, this is what he wants to do. We got to get ready for spring ball right now. So spring football is the priority because that's our next competition. And so I need them like physically ready to do that. And then we can kind of punch in the other stuff we need with those kids.
Right. It's like kind of like what season's up next, right? And then we can here and then, all right, this season's the furthest away, but then it also, you have to now, right? Like, all right, this is this workout. This is this workout. This is this. I mean, the structure and organization of it all ultimately falls to you after that communication with everybody, right? Because the AD is going to say it's this, the coach is going to say it's this, and now it's your job to say, all right, well, in order to maximize what we need to get done, this is how we got to do it. This is when we need to do it. This is what everybody's doing, and then really kind of break it down into it. It's a lot of work. It's really a lot of work.
What's cool is you can just kind of dose it in. It doesn't have to be this like it doesn't have to be structured. It doesn't have to be formal with the way we have our structure set up. Is because I can go to the kids that are football, basketball kids. We start getting into October, that kind of stuff. It's like, hey, just start going and get some shots up. You don't have to be in there for 2 hours, but like go get some shots up, go get up and down the court a little bit, just start getting your feet underneath you. And then for our baseball kids, right, we start getting, the couple kids we have, the one kid we have that is a baseball kid, which that's the hardest one to figure out, right? Because they're just two completely different games. Football, basketball, like I can, like that's pretty easy to navigate. But it's just telling, that kid being like, hey, you need to start getting on your throwing program. You need to start like getting some cuts in the cage. And so that just talking to the kids and then not being so formal with them, but being like, hey, if you want to be good, like this is kind of what it takes. Like you kind of have to.
Like you don't have many choices or many options,
No,
dude. Like this is kind of what you got to do. Yeah,
Yep.
I think Nick Saban said that, right? He was like, hey, man, there ain't many choices in this thing. Like you're either going to choose to do what you're supposed to do or you ain't going to be where you want to be.
Yeah, exactly. And so some of it, we got to put it on them. I think we got to put on the kids and like, it's easy to talk about, oh, I want to be this. I want to be this. Okay. That's super easy to say, but what are you actually doing to make that happen?
Right.
So I think that's some of it too, is just communicating with them and being like, okay, like I need you to do this. Cause at that point, I think we've done our job as we're transitioning through seasons. Being like, I think it's super helpful, even with schools that don't have a strength coach doing this. If the football coach was like, hey, basketball guys, y'all need to start getting some shots up. You need to start, getting up and down the court, start getting your hand on the ball again, getting your handles back, all of that. I think that would be a huge step forward. I think, and that would make athletic departments work a whole lot better if we just, started looking out for each other more. I think that's huge.
Coach, it's been awesome having you on, dude. It's really is. What you're doing is really cool stuff. You're first of all, it's great being just a strength and conditioning coach only.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
A great spot to be in, dude.
Absolutely.
And you really get the coordination of the whole athletic department, and it's really cool thing. We got to move down by where you are, and
South, baby. The SEC just means more.
Hey, man, absolutely.
Listen, and you've lived that life, right? Like you've been in different areas. You know what I mean? I'm sure that Minnesota culture sure as hell ain't even North Carolina culture, let alone, and especially where you are, right? Atlanta. There ain't, University of Georgia, like there ain't nobody not going to Georgia right now to play.
Right.
And especially football, you know, when we talk about top states, you know what I mean? Like you always hit the big three, Florida, Cali, Texas, Georgia's like 4. Right. Like they're top 5. Like that's the area of what we're talking about. So, where you're from and all those kind of like that stuff plays a role too. Like that South, Mississippi, like that belt right there.
Yeah.
SEC guys ain't coming to Jersey for, certain, they only come here for certain positions. You know what I'm saying? It's a little different. It's definitely geographical, but like we talk about it all the time, the high schools are so far, like football matters. And, weather plays a role because you can go outside a lot. Spring football up here is like another, it's like down the list, right? Like guys up here, it's, baseball, track, is huge here, right? It's a big sport in the Northeast. So managing all that stuff and then the communication between, your high school team and your club team and your whatever team, it's really, really difficult. It's nice to have a voice of reason. Like this is my guy that tells me what I need to do, when I need to do it from everybody else. It's a really good spot, man. Really appreciate the time, dude, and talking with us and letting us know, kind of cluing us into how things should be. That's for sure.
Yeah, man. No, I appreciate y'all having me on. It's been a great conversation.
No doubt about it, Coach. Well,
thanks,
Coach,
man.
have a great day. It's great having you on. We'll see you soon.
All right. See y'all. Appreciate y'all.
All right. Bye.
Thanks, man.
All right. Great stuff, man. Great stuff.
Imagine being in high school. Imagine being that, dude. Like high school strength and conditioning coach. I got the middle school guys in the morning, other guys in the afternoon. You ain't got to teach. Like, look, does it put a lot of pressure on you to like get things done and do it like, the right way? Absolutely. But I think that's kind of like what you strive for in those, with that, in taking on that position, man. It's just confirms even more, dude. Like we're so far behind, bro. Like we're so far behind when it comes to that in our student athletes. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, then they wonder why too, right? So, but you don't have to wonder. If you have more of your ducks in a row, you're in good shape. All right, till next
even
time.
in a small school. Yep. Next week we're rolling. Next week with a bunch. So
yeah, bunch. So all right, here we go.